Mhm. Hey there, welcome to Pop Culture Cupid.
I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
And I'm Michal, I'm a single life coach. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self relationship.
In this podcast, we will look at how pop culture impacts romance, dating, and your love life.
And each week, we'll shoot another arrow through another pop culture delusion.
I thought we weren't going to do the whole cheesy thing.
And then burst into smithereens.
Oh my god, dude, that's so cringe!
Sorry, it's in the intro now.
If you make it through the chaos and you enjoy what you hear, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and go to all the social media.
At Pop Culture Cupid on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy!
Recording in progress. Hello.
Hello! So it hasn't been a hot minute.
It hasn't been a hot minute. Well, it might have been for the listeners, depending on when we post this. But we just spoke. So
we just spoke. We just spoke. Had a bit of a catch up. So we said we were gonna stop digressing, and we said today's episode, which should be episode 3 of season 2, if my calculations are correct. Yeah. Might be episode 4, depending on coming up editing. I know you love to hear from editing, Alison. Obviously, this isn't episode 3 or 4 of season 2, but still stands alone, so we are doing fine. Bye, everyone! Today is going to be talking about moving in with your partner. And you said something when we were having our off-air catch-up, like, this is the first time that you're moving in with someone. It's not my first time. It's so yeah, let's just talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I was with one of my exes, we actually sublet an apartment for 2 months before we flew to the Far East to do a long trip together. But I don't think that counts very much, and it wasn't a great experience. But yeah, this is like the first time that I'm full in moving in with my partner at the age of 34. And not that I don't know what's a normal age to move in with your partner for, like, you know, but it's definitely been interesting, and it's come at a very interesting time. But to be honest, it's been very weird, but really it's also been it felt very natural, like because we didn't force it, we didn't rush into it, so we sort of just let it, not because nothing ever happens like on its own without, you know, pushing for it, but we didn't force it, and we didn't we didn't jump into it, or we didn't whatever. And so it just feels really natural, like it's just like part of like the natural course of our relationship. And it's just everything seemed to fall into place, which was amazing. Yeah. It's just like, you know, this kind of world is sort of with us. It's like, this is your time. And it's, yeah.
Sorry, I'm kind of, my digestive system is it's haywire.
Yeah.
Okay. For the people who haven't listened, I am currently pregnant, and happily so. Sometimes my body does things that I can't really control, so my apologies.
Well, all our bodies, you know, that no, I'm not going to digress. I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, that's it. We're not. This is not.
Oh my god.
We're not digressing. Anyway, you said
really
something.
Hard.
It is hard. You said something about like, when is a good time and not forcing it and things, and it kind of triggered a couple of thoughts. So me, officially, it's my second time moving in, like living with someone. We've been living together for a while now, but I did share space like with my first boyfriend, and it's different. And I think each time it did kind of just happen naturally. So my first boyfriend, like, he's older than I am, and so he got his own place, and I just ended up staying with him a lot, which it wasn't really moving in together, but my stuff was at his place. Whenever I wasn't at school, I was at his, type of thing. And then my the second time I moved in with someone, well, more or less, same. It kind of just happened. Like, we didn't really talk about it. It wasn't this big thing. It was just, I was coming back from the south of France and I had nowhere to stay, and he was like, well, just stay with me for a while and we'll move. And we made it work. And actually moving in with JT now, it was a bit of a different conversation. Because we both had those experiences in the past, and he was looking for somewhere to live when we started dating. And I kind of thought, okay, I'm just going to throw caution to the wind. And because I owned the flat that I was living in, I was like, you can move in with me, and if it doesn't work, you'll just leave. It was a bit of a risk. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't just, say, just do it. It felt right. It was clear. We talked about it. I told him, like, this is what I'm feeling. It seemed like a good idea. And now it's 2 years, nearly 2 years down the line. And it's working out fine. But I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend, having, dating for a while. Like, we had been dating like for 2 months before he moved in.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
I mean,
but as I said,
it could work, but it's like jumping in very fast.
Yeah, I've got examples of people who did that and it worked, and I've got examples of people who did that and it didn't work. Like, it,
yeah, it could go both ways.
Exactly. And as an opposite example, my brother moved in with his first girlfriend because it kind of felt like they had to, like they'd been dating for a while. They were both moving to the bigger city, and so they kind of came to the conclusion, like, we should move in together, which is slightly different. Do you know what I mean? Like, I said, just move in and we'll see what works.
Yeah.
Whereas they kind of made that move together, and it didn't work. And I think it's linked because they were so young. You said something about being 34. They were 18.
Oh, that's really young.
Yeah. They were high
that's
school
way
sweethearts.
too young.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at the time, like, it seemed logical. Like, they're both moving to the big city to study. Let's move in. They'd been together for a couple of years. It made sense. But actually, they probably both needed kind of growing up, maturing space, which they didn't really allow themselves to have.
Yeah, I think well, every person is ready at a different time. Like, for Zev and me, we were both very used to being, I mean, we're older now, so it's like, but besides the point. Like, we were both so used to living on our own and having our own space, and it was kind of, so we weren't rushing into it. We were like, it was just like letting go of our own space was very hard for us, and just getting, I don't know, like feeling like there's another person always being there with you, then it's just like very scary thought. So we sort of just, at first we didn't talk about it much because we weren't in a rush. We were just like enjoying our time together. We're not in a hurry to anywhere. But like, when the time comes and we feel ready, then we'll start talking about it. And then it sort of just started coming up in conversation very naturally. And it was sort of like everything in our relationship. We tried to talk about these things like in very like casual manner, so it's not like having like this huge daunting conversation about moving in together, or about getting married, or about having kids, or whatever it is. It's like we're having like a calm, cool, collected conversation that's just talking, and we're not making any big decisions yet. We're not, no one's gonna get insulted or hurt. We're just like talking about it calmly and just letting out our thoughts or fantasies or feelings or whatever it is. And, we're just not going to make a big deal out of it. And so we sort of like drizzled like these conversations throughout our time. Like, it just came up and we were talking about it, and even some ideas of where we can live, what we want to do with our place and whatever. And it's just, and ooh, Ooh, excuse me. And then it sort of just all started working out where we're like trying to think, okay, then where will we live, and what would, like, we had to wait for a place to free up, and it was just like, and then it's sort of just like this place freed up for us, and it felt like the right timing, and we just flew to Thailand. So it's like, I mean, we decided we were moving in together before we flew to Thailand, but it was like we didn't want to do it before because we wanted to like have that like little cushion of like, let's get through Thailand, see that we get along while we're there, and then when we get back, we'll do it. And it's just like everything sort of flowed.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the cliche yet very efficient way of doing it is you spend like a weekend together, and then maybe a bit longer, and then a holiday, and then you see to move in with each other. Again, I'm not saying, people have done this and it still hasn't worked, and and I didn't do that and it did work, but when you haven't got that kind of pressure, financial or situational pressure, you want to be able, you want to take your time, because what's the rush, really?
Yeah.
Especially if you're the one that kind of picked up and moved, so you're the one taking the risk. And if in my situation, I was taking no risks, he was the one taking the risk, so I was just like, you do what you want. And I told him, like, I would not recommend this as a love coach, I would not recommend this, but you do what you want. You're not my client, you do what you want. But when it's taking the risk to kind of just give up a place, change your financial and geographical situation, like, you want to make sure that you're being sure, type of thing. Whereas for me, it didn't change my life, the fact that he moved in. It kind of helped financially, but I didn't pick up and move, like, it didn't change my financial situation. I didn't have to go through all of this organization. He did.
Still someone invading your space in a way.
Yeah, but if I had enough, I could kick him out fairly easily. Whereas if I'm moving in, like, if we're both moving into somewhere new and we're getting tired with each other, it's a bit more complicated. But I mean, when he moved in, we may have said this before in a previous episode, but I'll say it again now. When I had this flatmate a couple of years ago now, we knew that we were two very different people. And so we came up with this thing where every Sunday we would kind of talk about what worked and what didn't work in our living arrangement. And we made a point of like saying what does work, what we appreciate, and what doesn't work. In a non-aggressive way. We're kind of like, the fact that she's a bit noisy at night, or the fact that we're not on the same wavelength when it comes to dishes or things like that. Talk about them regularly before it becomes a subject. And so the reason why we did that is because we knew we were so different, but we needed, like, at that point, we needed to, like, somebody to live with. So it was urgent. But when JT moved in, I said, right, listen, it turns out it was really healthy for us, and I'd like to do the same. And so we do that. Not as often as once a week, but we will allow ourselves